now because it is more profitable, right? A is more profitable, so they allocate more resources and increase the supply. So when the supply is increased, okay, beyond that equilibrium level, when the supply is higher, then there will be a excess production in the market, which means a surplus in the market, right? Surplus of that goods in the market, because at that price, less will be demanded. So that's a surplus. So when there's a surplus, then the suppliers will have to reduce the price to sell the products they have produced. So when the prices are dropping, then they see that, okay, now the prices have dropped. Now product B is more profitable because product B price is comparatively better. So they reallocate their resources to B. The same thing happens to B, then reallocate to C. Likewise, it goes on, right? Sometimes it might reallocate to A, allocated to A. Right? So through this mechanism, through the mechanism of demand and supply and profitability, the resources are naturally allocated for different sectors in the industry, right? So no sector will be discriminated in this mechanism except some external influences there. Otherwise, say even a very cheap item might become very expensive if no resources are allocated. As a result, right? As a result, then more resources will be allocated to that production because that is more profitable. So therefore, this the concept of profit is something that maintains the equilibrium in the market and also maintains the proper resource allocation within the market. So with the same thing, you need to understand a business would remain in that industry, or the reason for a business to remain in the industry is that they have to earn a reasonable profit. If their profit is not reasonable in that industry, they are likely to go to other industries, allocate their resources to some other industry. Right? That is the rational choice for any business. Okay. So businesses, they always say understand this profit from the point of view, or generally, right? Most understand this thing of profit or profitability by relating their revenue to the costs, right? So usually this has two things. One thing is they have a prediction about future, and they understand the profitability to the future, and at the same time they also make a judgment about their current level of profitability by looking at the actual income and the cost expenditure, right? So profitability is a key aspect of a business to take their decisions, including whether to bid for a project or not, right? And even to the level that whether to say default a contract or not. Right? So some theoretical things about profit, we'll try to understand the idea of normal profit. Right? This normal profit represents the total opportunity cost of a venture to an investor. Now, opportunity cost you may be familiar with, right? It is the next best alternative that you lose because you invest your resources in a certain business. right? And this opportunity cost is considered equal to the normal profit. Now, what is this normal profit? So think of a profit as a percentage, right? Think of it as a percentage. Now, say you are investing in a certain business, right? So when you invest in this business, the profit or the profit level or profitability of this business, just assume 30%. Okay. And your next option, option B, is 28%. So why can't this be something like 32%? Can it be? Can my other option be 32%? What do you think? Can my next best option is 32%? Are you all there? About 49.50. Yeah, is there. So 1%. Can my next best option be 32%? Didn't hear, sorry.
No.
Oh,
No.
say
No.
why?
Because that is the second
Yes, exactly. So
alternative.
that is
I have selected the first one.
Yeah, because it is my best. If it is my best option, then I should have taken this, right? If option B is 32%, then my investment would be here, because that is the best one. Right? So always we believe that we invest in our best option. Okay, in that category. So it cannot be something like 32%. It has to be less. Yes, that's right. So I'll put 29 there. Okay. Now, say, like for you, for many others also, A would be the best option because it is more profitable than B. Right? Many others who are also in similar kind of businesses, right? A would be the best option than B. So what happens? Like you invest for A, many others will also invest in A. So when many others are investing in A, that means there will be more supply in A. What happens when there is more supply? The prices have to drop if the demand is constant. But of course, if the demand is increasing for some reason, that may not be the case. But at least after a while, when it becomes to a certain equilibrium level, right? This is going to drop, right? So therefore, 30 will start dropping. And at the same time, now people are not investing here because this is more profitable. Right? So B does not get more investment. No? And the supply of B would be less. And of course, since A is more profitable, those who were supplying B would also shift to A. Because A is more profitable. As a result, the supply of B will drop. When the supply of B drops, then the difference between the supply and the demand of B becomes wider. more will be demanded, but supply will be less. So as a result, price of B will go up. When the price of B goes up, the profits of B will go up. So after a while, this may become 30, right? And this would drop something like 20. Right? Then it will work the other way. So when that happens, you can see that actually, if you think of it, like since I put some numbers, they are different, but if you think of it, naturally it is likely to be very close values. Very close values. Right? Almost equal. Okay. So that is why say it's very close. It's not wide, right? So for that reason, the normal profit is explained in that manner. Okay. So the normal profit is, you can understand, is therefore the minimum amount required to be remain in the market. Say, for example, at a time, this may be 29.5, for example. I'm just speculating. Okay. This is also 29.5. You see, there is no pressure to change it here or from there. So they can remain in this market, they can also remain in their market. So when it's changed a little, then they will have to shift. And if when it's changed this, of course, they will try to shift. If it changes this, they will try to shift to this side. Otherwise, they will remain in their own market. So normal profit is therefore identified as the minimum amount required to keep a firm in its current line of business. Okay, if the opportunity cost becomes higher than the profit, that means the revenue in the next best alternative is higher than the current one, then the businesses will shift to that. Okay, so therefore opportunity cost is sometimes also considered a cost. That's why it says opportunity cost, because that is a could have revenue the organization could missed. Right? Hope you got the idea. So that is the normal profit. So normal profit is okay for an organization to remain in the business, but they of course would like to have pure profit. Right? So always they try to go for pure profit. What is pure profit? That is the profit above those costs, including the opportunity cost. Then actually is the real profit for an organization, right? Because that is kind of the best reward they can have. Having a normal profit is normal, right? Not a thriving business. They can remain in the market, so they just remain in the market only, right? But pure profit will give better edge to the businesses. So the pure profit also has some other names like economic profit or supernormal profit, even abnormal profit or excess profit. All these different terms are used. That is the profit above the normal level. Right. So there, it says it is equal revenue minus all costs, but here this all costs include the opportunity cost or the normal profit. Right. So this cost, all costs, that includes the opportunity cost, right, plus other costs. Okay, that means this is above the level of normal profit, right, pure profit. So of course, organizations expect to have pure profit because they otherwise there is no, I cannot say no growth, but say they are not thriving in terms of a business. So they always try to get. So often organization will shift their businesses when they see businesses with pure profit. But of course, this pure profit may not long lasting, because when there is pure profit, many organizations or many entrepreneurs will come to that business. As a result, the supply will increase and the profit levels might drop. Right. Then there can be another situation where the profits are lower than the normal profit, which is called subnormal profit. Right. So it is the profit below normal profit. That means opportunity cost is higher than the current profit. Okay. You can understand that, because normal profit is equal to the opportunity cost. So the next best alternative profit level. So if a business has a below normal profit, that means their profit level now is lesser than the opportunity cost. Right? So the rational choice is to drop this business and shift to the next best alternative, or to get the profit equal to the opportunity cost. Right? If you are in business A, and if you are now earning a profit less than the business B, the rational choice is to shift to business B. Right? However, firms may not exit the market even there is subnormal profit. Right? If at least they can cover their basic costs. Right? They may not quickly shift to or say leave the current business. Right? So one reason is that subnormal profits may be temporary. That is usual temporary for most cases, because say if there are subnormal profits, then the businesses in current line of business will shift to other better businesses. So as a result, the supply in the current business will drop. So when the supply drops, naturally later the prices will increase, because the difference between the demand and the supply. Right? So later it will become normal. So because of that temporary nature, businesses will still remain or may still remain in the current business, even with subnormal profits. Of course, they would have to at least cover their costs, otherwise it is a loss. So here still they have a profit, but it's subnormal. Right? And the other reason is, or quite compelling reason, that why they might not exit is that sometimes the cost of exit is too high. You may have to pay compensation for staff, and then you may have certain plant and machinery that you cannot convert back to money easily. So as a result, exiting from the current business may be too expensive. For that reason, also certain organizations may remain in the current business. But of course, they cannot continue to do that as a business interest. But still, for a reasonable time, they might do this. Right? And now projects or business construction businesses, this may be happening. So think of it. Okay, so this is the an important thing. You have to remember the idea of profit and how it should be and how it works, right? And say profits are important. If you mechanically manipulate the profits, we are capable of doing that. We have certain mechanisms to manipulate the profits. I mean, not as the investor, but as project managers, etc. Right? So you can manipulate the profit levels of others, subcontractors, contractors, consultants' profits, everybody's profit. Certain decisions that you can take will change their profit levels. Right? So it is important that you understand what impact you have in your decision making to profitabilities of others. Not only the client's profitability, but other parties' profitability. And it can have negative impacts sometimes to the overall success of the project. So to get the project success as a project manager, you think of this mechanism, how it can affect when taking decisions. Okay. Another related thing when we talk about profit is known as the winner's curse. Do you know what it is? Anybody knows the concept of winner's curse? What is a curse? What is a curse? Curse. So රංගනා කතාවල අහලා තියෙන curse. What is curse?
Kind of a blaming or not good terms with the other opponent.
Yes, right. Something. So what is the effect of curse? What can happen because of curse?
Fighting, arguments and arbitration, all those kind of things.
Yeah, cursing others, yes. But say what happens when a witch curses on a child or something in those stories? What can you remember?
And into different stuff.
Something bad happen to them, right? When you are cursed, that means something bad would happen to you. Or something bad is likely to happen to you. That is the idea of curse. Right? So you're cursing somebody not to make them happy or not to make them rich, right? You curse them to suffer. So if that really affected, then something bad would happen. So winner's curse. So winner is a winner, right? So how the winner can be cursed? How a winner can be cursed? Any idea? Is this the first time you are hearing this stuff? Really, in the industry, you might have heard. Have you heard this before?
We may have come across, but in the namesake, we have never used this.
Okay. Yeah, maybe, yeah, you might not use it first in a way formally for any purpose, but say this is an idea that many might have been familiar with, but you may not have used the term as it is. Now it is like this. Now we think of winning. Now winning means we are talking about winning the bids, the tender in action, right? The tender in, say, the winner who presents the winning bid. Right? So you think of a certain situation where many are bidding for a project, right? So how they come up with the price, the bidders, they come up with the price of by calculating the cost plus profit, right? That is how they come there. We talked about this. So cost plus profit is their price. Now everybody is trying to win. So everybody will give their best price. Best price means the lowest they can offer. Right? Nobody is bid for fun. Sometimes they might, but generally not. Right? They all bid to win. Nobody wants to lose. So nobody bids to lose. So they bid to win. And when they bid to win, they give their best price. How they give their best price? by keeping the profit level to the minimum. Because the cost is cost. But the thing is, what we have is an estimate of this cost. Right? What we have is an estimate of this cost. Right? So to this estimated cost, we keep a profit. That is reasonable. You can understand now since I talked about profit. So it has to be at least normal profit. Right? Which means the expected profit of everybody in the market is almost the same because everybody's opportunity cost is equal. Right? Because there are similar kind of organizations, and what other businesses they have are almost same. Other options they have are almost same. Right? So in a free market, open market, right? It is same. So everybody's other options are same. Therefore, everybody's normal profit is same. Right? So if it is not in a situation where you can have pure profit, which is higher than the normal profit, right? Everybody will try to at least go with the normal profit. But of course, if it is a difficult time, sometimes they might go with the subnormal profit level also. But anyway, say their profit levels will be close because everybody is in a similar scenario. So their expected profit will be very much close to each other. Okay, so this is similar. So theoretically, we can consider it to be similar, but it will be different, but theoretically similar, very close to each other. Okay, in that market. Now, if that is the case, now cost in an open market, cost is also likely to be very much same, isn't it? Cost is likely to be very much same in a free market. Okay, so if the cost is same, if the profit is same, price of everybody should be same. Now, how do we see in your experience in tendering? Yeah. So the prices are actually at different places. Yeah. So quite in an average price area, there will be many, right? Usually, some may be higher, some may be low. But that is the normal case. If you have been to tender openings, several tender openings, you might have seen this. Right? So there are many in a certain area which we can think of it as a center area. Let's say, for example, 50 million. Right? Somewhere around 50 million, there are many, right? Then around 49, some, right? 48, 102, and there is somebody 47.8, right? And that is the winner. That is the winner. Okay, so how come this now theoretically the profit levels in the current market has to be same? So if the profit levels are same, costs are same, how come they all have different price? Now, since everybody is trying to win, so they set profit levels quite equal, right? Hope you can understand that, because if they keep large profits, even from the bidding model, you can remember the chances of winning is less, right? So they keep a certain profit that they can win. So everybody would be in closer level. So when everybody's profit levels are closer, costs are closer, then how come price is different? Okay, how come?
When you take a product at metropolitan area, is one price. When you take the same product at maybe some island or some far away, and the transport cost and the handling cost and the labor, everything will be added to that one, and the price will be vary. Even the same product, if you buy at Colombo or at Jaffna, you will be find cost added to the same product.
Yeah, but if it is for the same project, then everybody can buy it from the cheapest, right? Because not everybody is doing the project, so whoever does the project can buy it from the cheapest. Can't they?
It's applicable for everybody. So suppose the project is at one particular location, those who will be mobilized from some far away, they will have less chance of awarding the project. But if the project is going to scattered all over the island or some in the, if you still want to go through the, CEO Maldives like that, you will have to
Okay,
take that
so,
also.
good. That is the point but that is a special case. Say if you consider a project in Colombo, now there are many companies around Colombo, right? So how come their prices are different? Even for a project in Colombo, we see that wide difference.
So that is because the type of contractor. If you take C1 contractor, their price will be much more. And
Is it the case? My question is for a given project. So usually we go with say if it is for C1 contract, C1 grade, then all the bidders will be from C1 grade, isn't it? So I'm asking why the prices of different bidders will be widely different. Is my question.
Maybe their supply chain is more stronger. That they will be supplying the same product for some other, and they are having bulk stock, and maybe using for that particular project with lesser price than the only for that particular project.
Okay, but then they would have some cost of finance for keeping that with them. In a free market, this cannot happen actually. Of course, when it is not say our markets are not theoretically free markets, so say they are not equal to theoretical free markets, but generally it is expected that costs are very close. Say either you get it now or you get it and keep it. If you get it and keep it, then you have the cost of storage and of course cost of finance. So everybody, if it is the most profitable way of keeping, then in a free market, everybody would do that. Of course, say if you have taken some material for another project and if that project was abandoned, then that is a different case. Then say if you keep the material, there's a loss. So better to even get it done for a cheaper price. That is a special scenario. I'm talking about the generic scenario. Why this is happening? Some QSs, you know the problem. Why is it happening? Of course, other factors are affecting, but theoretically, how this can happen?
Different technologies.
No, it's not. It is because of this. It can be for various reasons why it is, but this cost is not real cost. Different technologies, all these things you can talk about. Right? That is, say, of course, practically they are affecting, but theoretically, in a free market, right? Say the costs are supposed to be equal for everybody. That is because say because of the market mechanism, demand and supply, profit levels of other suppliers, right? So the costs are supposed to be equal for everybody. Of course, by certain strategies, people might say change this, but that cannot be long term because others can also adopt the same strategies. Of course, when it is not free like that, is political influences or anything, then the things will be different. But otherwise, in a free market, it is supposed to be equal. The costs are supposed to be equal. But what happens here is that why the, at a theoretical level, why it can be different is because this cost is not the actual cost. Actual cost theoretically has to be equal for everybody, but what we have is an estimate cost, right? Estimated cost, and this is understood as a possible key reason for this variation among other factors. Other factors also can affect, but this is considered to be a key reason for this to happen because, say, when we make estimates, we know that we make certain errors. And sometimes it can be quantity errors, sometimes it can be pricing errors. But either way, we make errors. But the thing is, these errors are positive and negative, and they, in a way, cut off each other. And in most of the cases, we are correct, right? We are very close to the correct one. Okay. However, say in our practice, we might have, say, positive errors and we might have negative errors. On average, we are all right. Our estimates are quite accurate. Okay. However, you can see that when you are average and having the market profit levels, you are likely to be somewhere here. Because in most of the cases, somewhere nearby here, because majority of the others are also quite accurate, right? So you are likely to win. You are likely to win when you make a negative error, because then you become the lowest. Because you win when you become the lowest. Can you see this argument? You are generally correct. You are accurate, right? But time to time you make errors, mistakes, and sometimes your mistakes are positive, then your price becomes higher. Sometimes that is negative, then your price becomes lower, right? Whenever you win when your price is low. That's why you are lower than the other. Now you don't know when you're bidding for a project that you win. That means everybody's pricing in the same levels. Okay. Sometimes you may have realized this also when you won the project. So this phenomenon is understood as the winner's curse. That is, you win when you make a negative error, and when your error is the largest among everybody. Right? So you win when you make a negative error. That means your price is now less, estimated less, but your actual price should have been higher. That means the actual cost will be higher, but you get paid at the lesser price. So when you get paid at the lesser price, what happens is that your cost is now higher, then you lose from your profit. Where you lose from is from your profit, because your real cost is higher than your estimated cost. So you kept, say, if you assume you had kept 30% of profit, but when the real costs come, you might get only 15% of profit, because balance has to go to cover that extra hour cost. Got it? So the winner's curse is this idea that is presented. Right? A bidder, it is explained like this: a bidder who bases its bids on his own estimate of value. Remember the idea of value? So the value is the cost plus profit, expected profit. Okay, estimated cost plus expected profit is how you set the value. That is how you set the price, right? The contract, the bidders. So bidders value strategy is that. Client's value strategy I discussed last time, it is different, right? So cost plus profit is the bidders value strategy. So bidders base their bids based on their own value. So their own value is based on an estimate, right? So the winner's curse idea identifies that when bidders does that, right, which this estimate is although correct, or the price estimate is although correct on average, they may ignore the fact that they win only when the estimate happens to be the lowest among all. Right, among all. So because when winning against a number of competitors who follow similar strategies, so everybody would follow similar strategies in a open market. Right? So when they follow similar strategies, your costing, your profit levels, and all these things are similar. Of course, say overheads and these things you might think are to be different, but in a market, for businesses to remain in the market, they are likely to be almost similar in different ways. So sometimes the overhead may be higher, but direct cost may be lesser. Right? For some, direct cost may be higher, but overhead may be lesser. So we don't know how it happens, but those who have higher costs than others are likely to be dropped out from the market. They cannot remain in the market because they are not competitive. Right? So everybody's costs are supposed to be equal. Otherwise, they should move out from the market in the long run. Right? So from different areas, it can be high and low, but on average, the costs are supposed to be equal. And everybody in a given condition would, is likely to follow similar strategy. So in such a situation, how can your bid becomes the lowest? The argument is that when it is an underestimate. Right? So this is considered to be, now you, sorry, I must show you why. So you win, but when you win, you are sort of, so if you think the majority is having the average value or the real value, so you win when your bid is an underestimate. Right? However, just because it is an underestimate, right, it doesn't mean that there is winner's curse. If you are losing because of that, or if you are continually getting negative profits, or I mean subnormal profits, not negative profits, subnormal profits, then that is the issue. But if you are profiting, then there is no issue. How can it happen? That is, if you account for this. Right? So if this is accounted, then this is not there, right? So if you don't account this, you will have below normal or negative profit. So this effect is known as the winner's curse. That is, you win, but you lose money. So you are cursed. Look at this example. So the same thing I earlier drew on the whiteboard. So this is the bid price, and each bid on this scale, right? Say millions or billion, thousands or whatever the scale here. I have placed a circle for each bid. You can see that there are 4 bits at this price, 3 bits at this price, likewise 2 here, 1 here at this price, likewise it is there. Right. So just assume that here the true value is at this point. We don't actually know this, huh? We actually don't know this, but just assume, right? Theoretically, the true value of the project is here. Okay, and it is likely that that is the reason that many are near that. Okay, that is the possible reason. So while the true value is there, the winner is here. Okay, so this gap is called the winner's curse, because when you're doing a business, you expect the true value from that, right? Then only it is actually is a, say, a fair business for you from your point of view as a maybe as a contractor. But if you don't get the project return as at the true value level, then it is not good or not good enough. So this difference between the true value and what you actually get is understood as the winner's curse. And this winner's curse, we cannot really know how much that is, because it is sort of impossible to know the real true value. How do we know the true value? Even after completion of the project, the final price paid, we cannot say that is the true value. It's based on agreed price, right? So may not be the true value. And true value may be here, but maybe somewhere else also, maybe here also, maybe here, maybe here. We don't know. Maybe lesser than that also. We really don't know. So I just reasonably assume it is to be here, because like that is the sort of center point of all the prices. Okay, so when the winner is lesser than the true value, that difference is considered to be the winner's curse, because winner is supposed to get the true value or receive the true value or price equal to the true value also. No, at least. Remember that idea of value and price, etc. So this is considered the winner's curse. And this, as I said, you may not know, because the real value or true value may not be known to anybody. Okay. However, this, that is the difference between the second lowest and the lowest. Now, lowest will, now at the bid opening, we get to know this. So the lowest will know that I'm the winner, and the second lowest is 2 million above me. Second lowest is 2 million above me. That 2 million is clearly a foregone profit. right? I could have, say, increased my price by 1.9 and still be the lowest and win this, right? And that is loss, clearly loss. But the problem is you cannot know, right? Before bidding, you don't know this. Only after bidding, you come to know. And when the bids are open, only you know that, okay, I am 2 million lesser than the second. And that is clearly a foregone profit. And sometimes people refer to that as the winner's curse. Sometimes people say that they had a winner's curse of 2 million. But theoretically, that is not the correct one. The theoretical correct one is the difference from the true value, right? Second lowest, we cannot say is the true value. If second lowest is the true value, of course, yes, but we cannot say like that. So therefore, it is not the winner's curse. And some authors, they use the term winning margin to identify this difference. So the winning margin is clearly a foregone profit, and it is clearly a felt loss, right? Immediately, the bidder will feel that. Immediately after bid, at the bid opening, right? The bidder will feel that, oh, I lost this much. Okay. And however, that is not directly related to the winner's curse, because winner's curse is there when there is a loss of profit due to you underestimate from the true value, correct value, or the real value. Okay, so the winner's curse therefore is likely to come due to the reason of negative error in estimate or underestimate, whereas winner's curse or winning margin, so here is not from that. Okay, so sometimes ago, it was more than about 2015 or 14. I tried to understand this situation in Sri Lanka. Right, I wanted to see how the situation is. Then the issue that I had was, say, for different bid opening data, the bid values. I tried to see how the distribution was, but it was not possible. Then what I did was I combined many different projects together, their bids, the distribution of bids, by converting all the bids to have average value of 100. Right? Converting all the bids to have average value of 100. So simple calculation, what I did was, say, for a given bid, I divided all the bid values from the average bid. Average means you calculate the average of that bid, that tender, right? So all the bids average, say, if I get 5.3 million as the average for a certain project bids, then I divide all the bids from 5.3 and multiply by 100, so that the average, new average will be 100. After that, all the projects after this transformation had the average of 100. Then I could combine them. Otherwise, if I combine this data, bits will be in different places. I can't see a pattern. So with that, I came up with this distribution. Okay, I came up with this distribution. That is, you can see standard deviation was 16.1314 something, 13. You can see the distribution. So here you can see 100 because all were converted to 100. So 100 was in the center. Okay, so this is a histogram, and you can see there were beats on, say, almost symmetrical, right? Like very normal for both sides. And of course, bit taller than the normal distribution, but simply symmetrical. Then you can see at 80%. That means 20% less than the average speed. And even 60%, there are more, few. Right, 60%, there are few. Now we can see that at least, see, less than 20% from here, that is at 80%, right? At 80%, there are quite a number. Now this is since this is combined from many different bits, right? So it is not the lowest one here, right? It's not the lowest one here. So these are the lowest bits in many different projects. So the lowest ones are here. And you must understand they are the winners. They are the winners. So the winners are, you can see, they are at least 20% lesser than the average bid. They are at least 20% lesser than the average bid, or probably less than 30%. In most places, at least 20% less than the average bid. So if you consider the average bid is the correct bid, you consider that average bit is the correct or true value, or average bit represents the true value because it is the likely scenario, because many has got that price, right? And many others are very close to that price on both sides. So we can consider the average bit to be the likely true value. We cannot be sure of it, but that is the case. Then the winning bids are lesser than 20%. So how much of profit do we keep in our bids usually? In what range? Roughly, I'm asking, like in your experience, what sort of a range? Sorry, I did not hear. Like
30%, 30 to 35%.
Yeah, 30 to 35%, right? Then if the is around 100, right? If true value is around 100, so if you are winning 20% less than that true value, you are actually getting about 15% profit. You are winning with about 15% profit. You are winning with about 15% profit, not 35. That is if this 100 is a true value, right? I just made an assumption. But you have to understand this scenario. This is very important. Everybody wins with the profit, which is way too low than what they set initially. Is it possible? Can it happen? What do you think? Is this happening? No. Is there winner's curse? What do you think in our local industry? Now, this data came quite long ago, but I don't think the scenario has changed much. What do you think? Is this happening or not happening? Any reason? This is happening because this is true data. But the thing is, whether there is winner's curse is the problem. Right? So I mentioned winner's curse is there if this scenario is not accounted for. Right? I did not discuss it in detail, but here I mentioned, unless this fact is accounted in formulating the bidding strategy. Right? So if this is not accounted in formulating the bidding strategy, the winner's curse is there. That is what it says, right? But if this can be accounted at the time of bidding, then it is unlikely to be there. That is, if the bidders understand that we win only when we make negative mistakes, right? And usually when we win, right, our negative error is about 20%. Our negative error is about 20%. If winners know that, and if they adjust their price for that 20%, then there is no winner's curse. Right? That is, say, you know that you are on average, you are right? Your estimates are correct. But when you win, usually your error is negative 20%. So when you are setting your profit margin, you account this risk of error and include a premium into your profit margin for that 20%. That means if you set 35%, right? If you set 35%, so in that 35%, because in the profit margin, we include this risk component, right? So when you set that 35%, you actually, if you have actually included that 20% in there, that means you are okay with 15% profit. Because you know that about 20% is going to be consumed by the real cost. Right? So if you have understood that and set 35%, then there is no winner's curse. That means you are planning actually for 15%, but you included a profit margin of 35%. But you were looking for about 15% because you know that about 20% will go for your error. Right? With your experience, if you know this is regularly happening, this is happening, right? Now you can clearly see it is happening. So if everybody does that, then you see that this should be shifted by that 20% because everybody adjusts their price for that 20%. So whenever they win, they actually don't have the curse. Right? Otherwise, they won't win. Of course, their prices are higher than the real value, but when they win, their price is closer to the real value because they have made the adjustment of that error. So they are okay. There is no winner's curse. So that is one possibility. So accounting is that. So when they account for that, after you, so while you are developing your bidding strategy, including setting up of the profit, right? Then the winner's curse is not there. Which something I really don't know. We really have to figure it out if you want to understand this. But I only identified the possible existence of it. And nobody will say us, right? We do this adjustment for the winner's curse. Then the client will say, no, this one you don't have winner's curse. Reduce that 20%. So they don't say. Or we'll do something about your winner's curse. First reduce that 20% for me. Likewise, there will be other terms. So then nobody will say that. So if that is happening, there is no winner's curse. Or the other option is you win the project with winner's curse. Right? You win it with a winner's curse, then do something to recover that additional cost after the winning, right? Such as, say, withdraw. Sometimes people do this if they really figure that out. right? Sometimes they withdraw the bid because the curse is too high that they may have lost not even the subnormal profit, but might run into negative profits. Right? So they might withdraw the bids. Or sometimes might get help from subcontractors and suppliers. Right? If this happens, or if the level is serious, right, they might get some support from them. That possibility is there. Or do something to get some extra money, such as variations. Right? Use variations to get some extra money to recover that loss. Is that possible? Whether they do that. So this kind of concerns were there. Actually, we were interested about understanding about the variations, whether they would use variations to adjust this or recover the loss. Okay. Another study was conducted on this aspect because we identified the possibility of large winners curse, but we're not sure, right? So you could see that the winners curse, if that is there really, if there is no accounting for that, they are quite large, right? So 20%, 25%, that kind of large winners curse is there in the local industry. Can go to about 30s, right? Standard deviation was 16, so 2 standard deviations still cover only 95%, so still there can be more bids below that. So 30. So there can be bids less than 30%. For that reason, the possibility of large winners curse was identified, but whether they do something about it is not known. So since one possible solution identified for this was recovering the loss through claims, variations and other claims, extra claims that you make, another study was conducted. So this study was also interesting because we came up with this thing called claim attitude index. Now, claim attitude is not a measurable thing. You can't measure somebody's attitude anyway. We came up with this measure, which we named as claim attitude index. Even you can do this, right? So what we did was, for completed projects, we calculated this. For claims, we divided the total quoted claims, that is total claims made by the contractor. The value of the total claims, say, claimed by the contractor from the approved amount of claims. Now, what we considered was that approved amount is the correct amount they should be paid. We made that assumption. Of course, sometimes you might disagree. Especially the contractors might disagree that consultants do not approve the correct amount, right? Of course, that is a debatable one, but we did not go because we considered on average what they approve is the real entitlement. So we made that assumption, and that's okay because say we are looking at whether it is high or low, so that's fine. Then we use the total claims again from the records. So from the records we can find these. Plus we can also got the data of the bid opening, that is bid values of different bid values and the winning bid. So from there we could calculate the winner's curse, or we could not calculate the winner's curse, we could estimate the winner's curse. That is, we considered average bid value as the true value, which is an assumption again, but a reasonable assumption. Then say took the difference from that to the winning bid as the level of curse, so as a percentage to the winning bid as the level of winner's curse. And we also calculated the winning margin, that is the difference between the lowest bid and the second lowest bid. That also I explained to you earlier. Now, then we try to see whether there is a relationship between that and our claims attitude index. Now, claims attitude index become larger when the bidder, or when the contractor, actually at this stage, contractor is aggressive in the claims. That means they claim a lot, although their entitlement is less. So if they claim exactly what they are entitled for, then that will be the approved amount. Therefore, the proportion or the factor here will be 1. Right? In a rare case, if they claim less but approved amount is more, then it will be less than 1, but it is not, it was not common. Right? What could be common was that they claim a lot, then approved less. Sometimes they are close, sometimes they are not close. So if they have claimed a lot, you can see this index will become a large number. Right? So if they claimed quite closer to the approved amount, so this will become number closer to 1. So we try to see if there is a relationship, statistically actually, a statistical relationship between this and the winner's curse that we estimated, and also the winning margin. So interestingly, what we found was that we could not find actually a relationship between the estimated winner's curse and the claim attitude index. So estimated winner's curse is a reasonable estimate. You can see it is from the average to the lowest. Average bids, average of all the bids is likely to be the true value, or is likely to be closer to the true value from there to the lowest bid. So that estimate was all right as a value, as a data, right? But to that, this claim attitude did not show any relationship. That means they were not adjusting, or they were not becoming or changing their behavior to claiming based on this the idea of winner's curse. However, we found a relationship between what is called the winning margin and this index. Now, what is the winning margin? A winning margin is the difference between the lowest and the second lowest, or the winner and the one above. That gap. I mentioned 2 million earlier, that gap. Right? So when this is larger, the aggressiveness of claiming had become increased. Now that happens in the beginning, right? In the beginning of the project, that becomes knowledge. Right? Then through the project, we observe that in general, there is a tendency to increase the aggressiveness of claiming. They claim more than normal. That observation was made, and statistically we saw that relationship. That was not very strong, but still the relationship existed. Right? So what we deduced from that was that the real winner's curse is not felt by the bidders for some reason, or at least they did not consider that in terms of claiming. But of course, say if they actually felt, they are likely to have used this for claiming, because we see that the felt loss, the winning margin it's a foregone profit, and it is a felt loss. The winner feel that I lost this much. I could have increased my bid this much and still win. And that felt loss is there, and that felt loss has an impact on claiming. So if the winning margin also had been felt by the contractors, it is likely that they would have a similar behavior, but they did not show similar behavior. So for some reason, they don't feel the existence of winner's curse, or that loss in their winning, right? So it is either they don't know, or they actually are aware and doing something. Maybe they don't talk about as winner's curse, but in their bidding model inside the brain might have it, which we can't know, right? But if you are a contractor, I mean, not as a employee there, but if you are the one who makes the bidding decisions for the organization, you might have it. Okay. So this is interesting, and this measure actually you can use, no? If you are a consultant or somebody, you can try with your past data to see how you can rank different contractors, and for different projects, whether they have changed their behavior, what have affected them. So you can calculate this for a project. Index, even index for a project. Okay. So that's about competition. So remember, there are various things we can consider. We have to consider when we talk about selection and competition, or selection based on competition. And even the winner's curse are kind of impacts that we have to be aware of and consider how it has affected. Okay. Then in terms of selection, we also use what is called negotiation. Now, negotiation is a bargain, but it's not just a bargain that we usually do with conflicting scenarios, etc. Right? This negotiation is done for collective advantage, or benefit of both parties. So it is we cannot say it is purely a selection method, but it is say finalize the selection. That is because there is an initial selection, because we identify a certain party to negotiate with. So we cannot negotiate with the world at large. So we have to identify a party. Remember this offer and acceptance scenario when we do it with one party. So first we identify that party. So negotiation is that, right? So we identify that party, and with that party we do the negotiation. So we tentatively select a party, and we have not finalized the selection, because to finalize the selection we have to make the terms that we agree, that is price, the other conditions, and various things that we agree. So for those, we do the negotiation. So negotiation is an alternative pricing strategy, contrast to fixed price bidding, right? Competitive bidding. So where everybody offer a fixed price, but here we can say negotiate for that. Of course, it is not only for price. We could negotiate for many different things, right? So this negotiation is understood that it has certain features. Now, earlier I explained to you about the market equilibrium. So the market price is at that equilibrium, right? However, we know that there are still buyers at prices higher than the equilibrium price, right? So these buyers will be still there. This one. This is the demand curve. This is the supply curve. Okay. Here is the equilibrium. And that is at this point, at this price, right? Both demand and supply are equal. So therefore, of course, the price is stable there. Okay. However, we know that even at higher prices, there are people who are ready to buy, because they still have the value, even at higher prices. So their value is higher. So they are ready to buy because their value is higher. You can see even at higher prices, some can be sold. there is still demand. Okay, so this is the market equilibrium price, but still there are certain consumers or certain buyers who are ready to buy even at a higher price. So that is known as the consumer surplus. Okay. Similarly, at this price, this amount of is supplied. Right. However, if the price drops, supply does not stop. There will be supply, but it will be less. But still, there are some suppliers who are ready to supply at lower price. That's why there is still supply. So that is known as supplier surplus. Okay. So in negotiation, instead of finding the equilibrium price, what you are likely to find is something maybe in the consumer surplus area. If the client has more value than the equilibrium price, the client may be ready to pay even that higher price. So you might find a price in the consumer surplus area. And in another scenario, it may be the supply is ready to supply at a lower price because the supply is in the supply surplus area, even ready to supply at a lower price. So client might be able to tap into that. So the price may be somewhere here or somewhere here. We don't know. But when it happens, say, the possibility is there to tap into either of these. Okay. So that is an important point that we have to understand. So in a negotiated contract, right? We may be in consumer surplus area or supplier surplus area. So you must make your best effort to understand where we are, because that from there you can understand, because if it is in the consumer surplus area, that means at a higher price than the market price, then the client has a higher value, so client is okay, and the contract is also getting a good profit, right? Supernormal profit, likely to be supernormal profit. And if it is in the supply surplus area, that means supply is, or the contract is operating at the lower profit level. And client is getting it at a price higher than the market, lesser than the market value. Yeah, so it is more profitable for the client comparative to the market price, but client's value may be lesser than the market value also in that case. You can't say the client is getting a huge advantage over what expectation is. Anyway, this relationship is important to be visualized by you. Okay. Now, in practice, when you go for negotiation, there are some important aspects that you have to be careful about, consider about, right? Both the client side and the prospective contractor side, right? So client will negotiate with the prospective contractor. Both parties will have to do their homework before they go to the negotiation table. This is very important, right? So both parties should calculate their ceiling and threshold figures. Say if you are calculating it for price, just assume it is only for price. So you have to calculate your ceiling and threshold figures. Right? So how would the prospective contractor calculate the threshold figure? What sort of a mechanism would the contractor use? What do you think? How would the contractor find the threshold figure? That is the price, the lowest price they would agree. That is the threshold. They don't go below that. Threshold is that, right? Threshold level in a room is that floor level basically, right? Ceiling is upper level. So we can only move in between these. So threshold is the lowest one can go. how does the contractor calculate the threshold level? What mechanism would be used? Simply estimation of the cost. Cost estimate plus profit. Cost plus profit is the price. So estimated cost plus profit, the threshold will be set. Because below that, no means of or no use of doing this project because the profits are too low. Of course, here also estimating error has to be considered, right? Okay. After that, the threshold had to be set. So contractor has to set the lowest because below that, contractor can never agree. Above that, at any value, contractor would be happy to agree. And if it is higher, very much higher than that, contractor will be very happy, right? Contractor will be very happy. Okay. Then for client will not use the same cost plus profit method, right? Client will not use because client's value is different. Client is not looking at cost plus the profit because cost is not something the client's cost. Client cost will be the price the client will be paying. So client will use that cost plus profit method compared to the expected return. Remember, investment appraisal methods, development appraisal methods I mentioned. So there are other ways of defining the client's value. So sometimes client might use some calculations, or sometimes client may have a value from the feelings. Okay, so client will set the ceiling because beyond that, because this price the client is paying for this building is the client's cost. So beyond that, it is not say reasonable for client to go for this investment. So client will set that. So client will not agree for a price above that. So for client, you can see it is from here downwards. So client would be happy for any price from here downwards. Right? Contractor would be happy for any price from here upwards. Okay. So contractor will have estimate of threshold value, also has a estimate of ceiling value, the highest value. Right? So the highest value, is it needed? Why would the contractor need the highest value? Contractor can be happy with any value above this, right? So why should contractor stop there? Why can't the contractor go even above that? Any idea? Why would the contractor need the ceiling value? Is it needed? America, what do you think? Minimum price is this, right? Will the contractor think of a maximum price? Is it important? It is not. It is not. Contractor is happy with any price above this, so there's no limit. More it goes up, happier the contractor will be, right? More it goes up. So the contractor actually doesn't have a limit. Similarly, the client will also doesn't have a limit downwards. Client will be happier for any lower price than the below the ceiling level. So why would they need a threshold? Why would they need a ceiling? Can't they go without that trigger for the negotiation? It's a concern. So in fact, why they need this is when you go for negotiation, then you have to be strategic, right? So the client will have some own homework. We know that, right? It's not like you go to a Peta market and start bargaining. Right? Sometimes this happens, right? I don't know now how it is, but those days people were very happy to buy things at a very cheap price from Pepta market. Right? Sometimes 10% of the original price. Right? But when you come here, the 5%. That can happen. That is because we go without our homework. That's because we don't know the real value of the other part. Right? Say when you go there and if they say, if you see one nice wristwatch, and if you ask them how much, they will directly say 10,000, right? For example. Then you will say, no, it's too high. Because you like it, you say, can I have it for 7,000? Right? So when you say that, they know that you don't know the real value of it. Okay. Then they play accordingly. Now, there was my friend who actually was quite successful in Peta market. Right? He doesn't do that. So he bargains in one shop, two shops, and make a judgment about the true value. Right? After that, at the third shop or fourth shop, he offers the true value, and of course that worked. Right? They sell it at that price. So you have to know the other person's some idea. You have to have some idea about other person's value. We cannot know exact true value, but a reasonable estimate. Right? A reasonable estimate. So after you bought that, maybe somewhere else you bought it for 7,000 and you were very happy. You got a reduction of 3,000. But when you go somewhere, the watch is 2,500. So that wouldn't happen if you really knew that the value of the watch is around 2,000, 3,000. Then you could have bargain, and the party would also go in line with that. Right? So that's why we need a ceiling. Similarly, for the client, the threshold. Because now the contractor will not offer directly the threshold price. Contractor will offer a higher price. How much higher? Right? How much higher the contractor can first offer? If client first offers, but assume the contract is prospective contract is first offering. So where can we offer? So if the contractor offer a too high price, from that point, sometimes at that instance, client might give up the negotiation if it is too high, because client cannot assume that you can bring down the contractor to the client's expected level. So the contractor should have some estimate of the client's true value. Need not to be exactly same, but some estimate about it, so that they set the ceiling little above, and to be able to drop it. Because in the negotiation, we know we have to drop it. Right? So you set it a little above, but not too high. So the client is okay to continue with the negotiation. Similarly, when client, right, counter offers, or maybe first offer a very low price, then the prospective contractor will know that this client has no idea about construction costs. Right? Construction market prices. This client has no clue. So the prospective contractor will assume that, and might sometimes give up the negotiation, or sometimes play with that so that client is in disadvantage. That's why both are necessary. So you can see this threshold value is set by cost plus profit. This one is set by some investment appraisal method, right? So for estimate their ceiling, the contractor will also use a similar technique, but doesn't go into very detailed level, but sort of an investment appraisal type of a technique to figure out how much of likely ceiling the client can have. So similarly, client will use the consultants to give them the threshold value, right? An estimate of the potential price of the prospective contract. That is estimate of the threshold of the contract. Right? And based on that, a little lower threshold will be set for the client and the negotiation begins. You can understand, contractor might ask for a higher price somewhere here, near the ceiling. Client would say, no, somewhere here. You can see that range, you can't agree because client ceiling is here. So client will not agree for a price above this. So they cannot agree. And here, the contractor will not agree. So therefore, no agreement here. So agreement will happen only in between these two, right? In this range. Okay, in this range only. So in this range, where it ends will depend on each party's skills. If it is closer to ceiling, of course, you can see the contract has been stronger in the negotiation. Or if it is closer to the threshold, the client has been stronger in the negotiation. But of course, in reality, we can't observe it because these are private values. Only the client will know the client ceiling, only the contractor will know the contractor's threshold. So they don't know the other party's values. They only have an estimate, but that is not accurate. Right? Therefore, we don't know really. But say if you understand the scenario, if it is closer to here, that means client has been good in negotiation. But if it is here, the other party, or if it is in the middle, both are equal. Of course, that is not a really serious issue because both parties are winning, because the contractor is getting a price higher than the target, right? Because then the contractor will have a profit than what little higher profit than what is targeted. Then the client is also getting it to a price lesser than the target. So still the profitability is there. So both parties in advantage. So negotiation is something like that. So it's a bargain for collective advantage, which means that the bargain will not end successfully if the client's ceiling has been lesser than the contractor's threshold. Now, here the ceiling is higher than the threshold. So therefore, there is an area in overlapping area. Right? But if the threshold had been here and the ceiling had been here for the client, then there is no overlapping area. So in such a situation, the negotiation will end without an agreement. So if the negotiation ends without an agreement, both parties are not agreeing for a price, then we understand that there is no overlap in these two rules. Then what the next strategy, the client will have to decide whether to come up with a different investment or just give up this project or try another prospective contractor is also an option. Right? Hope you got that idea, right? So this happens, of course, we cannot know the other party's value. So if you are with the contractor, you only know that. If you are with the client, you would know that. Otherwise, client side only, but you will not know the other parties. Okay. Right, so any comments, questions? Right, so let's take a small break. Very small one, 5 minutes. So I'll be back by 3:38.